We started Seedlings of Success actually on the last day of May, that is 31st of May. And we had our first guest as Rajat Talak. And since Rajat Talak is a researcher at MIT, and some of you who are in the audience also attended that talk. Since it got telecast on Prudent, you usually forward it to your broadcast list, and Rushikesh is on my broadcast list, so it reached him. And it's like, great initiative. I watched it. I'm like, why don't you come, right? You have also done something in life, so let's start it. And that's how the conversation started. And I was waiting for him to come back to Goa. He is in UAE, right? Rushikesh and I studied together at NIT Calicut. Not just that, we shared the room for almost 3 years.
3 years.
Although the first year, it was not official, but we were in your room only, right? Until we got a single room, we were always around Rushikesh, right? So Rushikesh grew up in a small village here near Mangeshi. He studied in a school there itself, right? But the kind of achievements that he has had do not reflect the village. It's something extraordinary, because he has not taken any sort of coaching that we went for, right? Like I went for a coaching so that we get into this college, right, which I give now for others. But Rushikesh, when I met him, he was like, I never went for tuition. So I was like, how did you manage all this, right? He was 7th rank in AIEEE, and if you discount all the top 6, all of them had gone for tuition. So basically he was the one who made it through on his own, right? And then I got to know him better, and then I saw how good he was with especially math. So right, I've seen him stump us at calculations and kind of mind-boggling things that he used to do, right? In subjects that people used to struggle to even pass. I remember statics and dynamics. I think that subject people were struggling to pass in the first year. He scored 100 on 100, like in those subjects, right? And it was very difficult for all of us. So I was always in awe of him. I was also in awe of another person, Nitish Wagre. He was also
same batch.
Same batch, really brilliant. I grew up with him during school. So these two people have always been like, I feel I need to have what they have, That has always been the case. So today Rushikesh is here with us to speak about his life journey. He got a gold medal at NIT Calicut 2011, but immediately in 2012 he joined IIM Lucknow, right? And for someone who has stopped engineering to switch careers and then get into finance, and for the last 10 years he has been handling finance as a role in finance in UAE across 3 different companies, right? So we'll be taking you through that journey, right from his childhood to where he is now and how he looks at the world, and so that some small thing that he says or some small experience that he has, small things that he has picked up along the way can serve as inspiration for some of you young minds who are in the audience. Obviously the success is not his alone. There were parents around him, there were other elders around him who did certain things that in hindsight Rushikesh can say, okay, maybe that is what has led me to be this. So hi Rushikesh, thank you for accepting the invitation.
No, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So you are right now heading Treasury of a big real estate company in the UAE, right? And typically we assume that heading something in finance, something to do with money is the job of a CA or a commerce graduate, right? Uh, Especially for the audience here and those young minds here, and even I am young in that sense. Uh, how would you explain your job? What is it that you do?
I think let's try to simplify it. I think some of you might have taken a personal loan in life or a mortgage or auto loan, right? This is a personal thing. So very simply, when you take a loan, you have to pay interest on it. You have to make sure that you make that payment on a certain date, right? You have to make sure that you have enough cash to service it. And you are managing your personal finances as well, which is like paying bills on time, making sure that education of kids is taken care of, and various other things. So for all of this, money comes in, money goes out. Very simple stuff, right? Nothing complicated. That's for an individual, right? Depending on the individual's net worth, it can be anything like few thousand rupees to crores of rupees. Now, in an organization, right, which has like thousands of people, hundreds of projects operating in many countries, this number tends to become very big, right? So interest bill itself will be a huge number. My job is very simple, trying to make sure that everything that needs to be paid is paid on time, right? Nothing complicated. That's like the base job. But I think the excellence part of it, or the area where you truly add value to the organization or the people, is making sure that it's done in such a way that it is the lowest cost, lowest risk, right, for an organization. Maybe there are some jargons here, but it's not more complicated than having your own personal finances, right, wherein you earn your salary, earn some interest or earn some returns on your investments, and then you pay your bills. That's all you do, and it's as simple as that. It's just that size is multiple fold, thousands of times bigger than an individual. So that's why it becomes a little bit complicated, and like you go to your wealth advisor, who typically gives you that advice, saying that this is how you want to save money, right, or this is how you want to invest. And then you go to your tax advisor saying that, can you file my taxes, right?
But I want to know this thing. Your background, your education is in engineering, right? Management is a lot of people do management, right? Like, but how did you end up there? What is?
I think that's a part of the story that we will cater to this particular discussion. But I think instead of going how I ended up being there, I think it's very important, like what gets you there, right? So in terms of what I do, I think I don't need a maths which is more complicated than, let's say, 10th standard mathematics. So most of you are overqualified for that job at this point in time. It's just that you do not know certain jargons, right, that I know. So that's one of the difference, right? And probably you don't know the problem statement. What are you solving for, or what I am solving for? I think those are some subtle differences, but from a complexity perspective, it's not that difficult. As an engineer who has done like mechanical engineering, I'll be lucky if I use 5% of what I studied there in my today's work life, right? And there are certain similarities in terms of what I do versus engineering, and it's also termed as financial engineering. That is also one of the studies that happens mostly in the Western world. I haven't seen similar courses in India. The typical route is MBAs, right, for this particular path. But on the other side, people tend to believe that this is the job of CAs, right, or the BCom grads. Not really. If you can understand some of the basics of money coming in and money going out, which is not that difficult, then anyone can do it, as long as you have relatively strong background in maths.
You make it sound very easy for all of us, right? I can't imagine. But at the same time, like, since you have mentioned math, right? Like, how did that whole process start for you? What was your first experience of math? Because you say math is easy. I'm pretty sure there are people in the students have already rolled their eyes, right? So I want to know, what was your first experience? How did you get introduced to
So
math?
I think it goes all the way back to when I was probably 4 years old. Anything prior to that, probably I don't remember. So I think, see, like, just to set the background here, I come from a village background. I was the youngest kid in the house, right? The next youngest kid was my brother, who was 5 years elder to me. So by the time I was probably understanding things, he was already in school. So I had to find some time pass. Also in village, people tend to stay a little bit further because there are farms in between. So I didn't have friends as a kid. Plus I was a very boring person. I wouldn't go to playground. So like my brother and cousins over here will vouch for it, saying that they had to throw me into the playground. Only then I will sit there. I won't play. Right? So I wouldn't go to playground. No cricket, no football, nothing, no volleyball.
So he's like, when I used to see people play, he's like, at the end of it all, if you have to just go around and come back to the same point,
Why to do it?
why even do it? So the whole thing is, his love for math is stemming from some sort of laziness. So
Yes.
let's not get that.
So just to set the context, I was a very lazy person. I'm still is, right? And one of the key aspect of a lazy person is that person never asks what, who, when. The first question they ask or the last question they ask is why, right? Just to kill the argument. So that's how it all starts. And that was the same argument, right? If they are running around and coming to the same spot, why should I do it?
Yeah.
I can do it by sitting over here.
Yeah,
So I think
work done is zero.
work done is zero in science. Exactly. So I knew about science without knowing the word science. So I think at that point, probably thanks to my mom, right? She figured out that this guy needs to do something in life because this is going nowhere. Because as a kid, I wouldn't play, I wouldn't go to farm, I wouldn't do nothing, right? So she tried various things, like trying to give me colors, toys, do something, no interest, right? I don't know what she thought or how she did it, I never asked that question, but she introduced me to coins. Now, the thing that she told me, and luckily that I understood, was you can buy things with that stuff, right? Those metal pieces can buy you something. I didn't know what, right? But you can buy something. So I was very excited about it. So she started giving me those coins. And she also started telling me, like, this is how you count. So at the age of 4 or 5, she taught me counting from 1 to 10. That was relatively easy. I picked it up. And this was all happening in Konkani, right? So
And this was happening at home.
at home. So I didn't go to KG or anything.
So you directly went to first grade.
I directly went to first grade. So this is like before the concept of school for me,
Yeah.
right? So
Preschool.
this is preschool at home, just because she wanted to kill my boredom.
Yeah.
Not that I was bored. I was very happy to do nothing. So,
So you are collecting coins.
so I was collecting coins. So she told me, like, now you're collecting coins. You can buy things with it, but you don't really know how many you have. Right? So I had to learn something to make sure what I have.
Okay.
So it went from 1 to 10, then 11 to 20. And I started learning addition without knowing the word addition, right? Because I was counting. At some point in time, the coin collection went to an extent that it had to be in 3 digits or 4 digits. And counting was very difficult. And because you take one coin from bucket A to bucket B and put and count, it's a very cumbersome process. Now I'm a lazy person, right? I somehow lost interest in it a little bit. So she came up with another way, right? She's like, take 10 coins, count from 1 to 10, stack it. Like, put a stack of 10 coins. Now count from 1 to 10 again, put another stack of 10 coins, and you keep on stacking it. And then it's like count the stacks.
Okay.
So if you are having, like, for the sake of argument, 500 coins, you are sitting with 50 stacks.
Yeah.
And suddenly I was exposed, right, to multiplication
Without you knowing that.
without me knowing that it's multiplication. I don't know whether she designed it or whether it was a sheer luck, but she did it.
Yeah.
So I picked up multiplication
Before entering school.
before entering school.
Yeah. So
And
I think I want to just bring the aspect of how schooling is done right now, right? I think without even the child having any motivation of why you should count and what you should count, they are being fed with numbers. Like you have to first be able to say 1, 2, 3, 4. As a nursery rhyme, you say 1, 2, buckle my shoe. That's how it starts, without them having any conception of why it is even required. And in your case, I see that your journey started with a use. Like there was something that you were looking forward to. You had a purpose.
Yep.
And I think in today's education that is missing. Largely in mathematics, when you start counting, you do it as a mundane task to just before exam, right?
Yep.
Before exam, there is an exam and the student is like, "Fala math paper mara, do something,"
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So which is very
By the way,
important.
there was an element of exam as well, without me knowing exam. So let me give you an example. So what used to happen is, like, I used to have this lot of coins, probably more than 1,000, which I used to keep in a drawer, and I used to keep it hidden from everyone.
Safe.
At least that's what I thought, but everyone knew where it was. So whenever my dad or my mom, ma or papa as I call them, right, like, there came a fisherman who had to be given 18 rupees, let's say. They will go grab those coins and give it to that fisherman, right? And
Not good money management at that age.
yeah, I didn't really know that if you have a treasure, you need to lock it. So slight difference, right?
Yeah.
I didn't do that. So she told me, like, do you know that maybe we are taking coins, you need to count those. So I used to keep on counting. So there was an element of exam. There
So
was
your
a test.
first job in life was managing a treasury, right?
Yes.
Which is what he is doing right now.
Right now, slightly different scale.
Yeah. So there is a saying in Marathi, we say that, mulanche pai paण्यात दिसतात, sort of. This like applies directly to you.
Yes, in a way, yes.
Let's move on from there, and I want to know, like, going from, like, I remember some of my first years, in KG1, KG2, like I was being dropped to school. I remember people crying, even me crying, like that I don't want to go to school, right? I have these small, like these glimpses in my memory, right? When you went to school directly in first standard, how was your journey in school like?
No,
Primary school.
I used to find reasons to come back from school.
Okay.
They used to drop me, like, before Papa went to office or his site, as he called. He would drop me at the school, or somebody else will drop me. I was the youngest in the house, spoilt one. So they used to make sure that I
That
go
you
to
are in school.
that I'm in school. But I would always find some reason that I'm
not
missing
go.
something. I'm getting pain in my tummy, and so I came
It
with
was
reason.
very regular, like any other kid.
Like
I think
any
all
other
of us
kid.
have done that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember a lot of my first to fourth. It was in a Marathi medium school, government primary school in Konkani itself. So, and we had a teacher. So, Valaulkar, I think that was her second name. She used to give me a lot of attention as well. She used to force me to learn things. So that's what I remember, but I don't really remember the content.
The content.
Content, yeah. But I do remember glimpses wherein she would ask me to go and do some maths.
Was there the only teacher in your school, or
No, there were.
as in from first to fourth? Because I don't know. During my time where I studied in Panjim, we had different teachers at different grades, like first standard.
No, the way it used to work was there were two classrooms, and first to fourth students used to study at the same time.
This is still happening in government school in Goa.
Yeah, so let's say first standard and second standard will sit in one room, taken care by one teacher, same syllabus. and then third and fourth will sit in the other room,
Yeah.
and they will be again on the same syllabus.
It
I
is
think
still happening in a lot
one
of
thing that
schools
I
where-
remember categorically is like for at least 2 hours we used to sing tables. Tables as in pade.
Be ke be.
Be. Yeah, and they also used to ask us for the remaining half to write it down. So
Yeah.
that was very boring because
I saw that in Pune also. So Pune, the school I was teaching in, I go to the class in say June in a second standard class. I was teaching 5th standard, 6th standard. It was a government school again, PMC, Pune Municipal Corporation. The second standard in June were writing tables and saying tables out loud. In March also they were doing the same thing. Like it was that same repetition, you know. Yeah.
Maybe it works. You don't know. It's like practicing, right? Somebody looking at Virat Kohli 24
So
by 7.
were you good at tables?
Yeah, I was good at tables. Very good. Back then.
So till what did you know?
So I think when I was in 4th standard, if I'm not mistaken, out of curiosity, I wrote tables until 1000. So and I could recite those as well.
And this is a very boring task, right?
Extremely boring. Yes.
I have people sitting in this audience right now. I'm looking at them. You ask them to calculate something, they would be like, calculator kar. This is what has happened to students after COVID. People, since they were away from the screens, like away from the school, like they had devices in their houses, and teachers used to give a question and they used to do it on a calculator. I face this.
Yeah, just the thing that I don't remember why it got initiated that way. Like why did I take up that task? Like somebody trying to run a marathon, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know why it happened, but there is a very high likelihood that either my brother or my mother would have told me go to playground and play cricket. I'm like, I'm doing tables.
So that was your excuse.
Yeah, I'm like, I will do this thing.
We had the other excuse. My parents, I remember my summer vacation, my dad bringing me books to read.
Yes.
And me not being able to read them, going out and playing cricket. So that was my childhood. But anyway. But what I want to emphasize here is that what he did is right now there is research being done on your brain where this sort of practice, which is boring, right? If you do it repeatedly and you start challenging yourself with something that is, if you know till let's say 8, then you try to find more patterns. It kind of strengthens your neural connections. The wiring of the brain that we have, it has something called as myelin sheath, which is like a covering for the wires that you have here, the insulation. That insulation determines how fast your neural connections are. And this is what he has just told us is a way of doing that. Repeated practice, which is something I think everybody today, in my classroom at least, is moving away from.
So
Yeah.
I'll give you an example.
Thank you for that, because I need to show them this clip and tell them then, tell them your salary maybe.
So I'll give you an example of one of those, right? As you said, it's like, although I said 1 to 1000, but practically speaking, I don't think I need more than 20 out of it to do remaining.
Give an example.
Okay.
We won't believe you.
Okay, so if somebody comes around and says, recite me a table of 273, right? It's not that difficult because it's simply a combination of table of 27 and a 3.
Okay.
Right? Now one might say 27 itself is difficult, but again 27 is 30 minus 3.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you do a recite of a table of 30
30
minus 3 and a 3. So there are like 3 threes in that. So you don't really have to use lot of your brain power on that.
You just need 3.
You just need tables of 3, and then you need to be a little bit fast at addition and subtraction. Like 27 3 is basically 30 minus 3 and 3, which becomes 60 minus 6 and a 6, right? Which is 546. I used to be like at least 2 times faster 25 years ago. Now I have lost that capability slowly.
Yeah.
So you will have to bear
You
with
also
me.
know that if you don't practice this, yeah.
So
Because I have seen him much faster than this. Just do it like this. You should not even think, right? And no, so what you just did is basically what you're displaying is something that we all have.
Yep.
So it's called the working memory, and I think that working memory is something that grows the fastest when you are in your teenage.
yes,
Right, and for all those who find math difficult, one of the ways to push that boundary is to make sure you can hold things in your working memory.
by the way,
And it is proven on research.
by the way, whosoever told you that maths is difficult, ignore that person. Okay.
I think a lot of math fear just comes from someone saying that math is difficult.
If you think maths is difficult, try to learn proper language, right? Language has more rules which can be abstract than maths. Maths is a very rule based.
Yeah.
It's very easy to understand, like especially
If
counting.
you have a purpose, I guess.
Yeah.
If you just do mundane calculations, when just because you will get marks at the end of the day, I don't think that's good enough a motivation for the
No,
kid.
that's not good enough a motivation. But I would say on a scale, right? If I have to learn proper Konkani, like although Konkani is my mother tongue, if you give me a paper to write, probably I will fail today, right? But if you give me a maths paper from 7th standard, I'll do okay, right? That's the thing. So language has more rules than maths has. So if something is less complicated, something has less strings attached to it, it's easier to grasp. Very often I think fear of maths comes from because somebody told, "Are ganit khub difficult asa."
That is one, and the other thing I think which has happened throughout history is when you test a mathematics. So I know the teacher dynamics here, right? I used to never know how people correct papers, right? With math, what happens is there is a definite answer.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people grew up where their process was not given much importance, and the final answer was always looked at by lazy teachers to just give either correct or wrong. So historically what has happened is people have lost marks in mathematics more than languages, because languages you could just say small spelling mistake, you know. So what has gotten into the child's mind is in math I need to get it right. And because that process is so long, the moment it becomes longer, you start resisting.
Margin for error is zero, basically in maths,
Yeah.
right? You don't get chance to experiment like other subjects.
Yeah, so that's I think is a big thing, and I think that should be discounted. Those errors should be looked like you should keep it. You should not say a person is bad at math because he is bad at arriving at that exact answer.
Yep. Agree.
Right, the process is more important than
The outcome.
the outcome, at least when they are young.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, we went into math a lot, but let me come back to your life. Yeah. So now you're in Wagre High School. You
Yes.
shifted from a government school to Wagre High School.
Yes.
Yeah. Just like I also was a Marathi medium student. I shifted from Hedgevar to People's. And when you shift, so I remember this, okay. When you are in 4th standard in your school, you are the Dada.
Yes.
The whole batch feels like you are well respected among all the peers, and suddenly you are put into this school which is 5th standard, and then you have these tall, huge people around you, and you feel small. And on top of that, every teacher who comes in the class is speaking in English,
Yes.
half of which we don't understand.
Half?
Right? Yeah. More than half, right? So I remember this Uma teacher in People's. She always reminds me, even if I go today. At one point I had said that she's like, "Where is your handkerchief? Wipe your sweat." I'm like, "There is no lace in my balls." Right? Because I thought lace and balls was both
English word.
English words. Right? And since you went to a school like that, what happened there? Like,
See, I'll tell you, right? June is when we typically start our academic session, right? So I went from 4th to 5th, from 100% Marathi medium, without even knowing like letters, right? We didn't even have an exposure to basic alphabet. So directly into 5th standard, and I'm looking at like blackboard. Teachers are talking in English. Some of the kids who came from English medium are talking in English, and I'm like, what do I do now? Right?
Yeah.
I cannot even understand what
मैं कहाँ हूँ?
मैं कहाँ हूँ, right? I think there was this first set of tests which happened within a month just to check how deep underwater different kids are. And I think there was a very clear dichotomy. In maths, I did really well because for every question while writing the exam, I asked teacher, what does this question mean? And I'm like, she explained to me in Konkani, then I wrote the answer, right? For other subjects, other teachers did the same thing, right? They explained me a question in social sciences or science. I wrote it. I understood the question, but I also knew the answer in Konkani, but I didn't know how to write it in English. So I flunked all the other subjects, right? Flunked. So, and it was difficult. But I want to tell an incident from 15th of August. So now, just to set the background here, so I went to Agre High School, right? Now, I was the youngest kid in the house, right? And all my cousins, my brother, even my kaka went to Agre High School. And again, trying to set the background here in terms of the benchmark that I was going to be tested against. Like my kaka was one of the state board toppers in 1970s or 80s, right? My brother, who is 6 years elder to me, he topped 1 or 2 subjects in his 10th grade. So the benchmark was pretty stiff, right? Like people knew that Rushi is coming from Kamat Sambari family, he will be good, without even knowing Rushi or who he is, right? That was assumed because he comes from Kamat Sambari family. So around 10th of August, probably 5 days before this stuff, this Mr. Thomas, who is the headmaster, right? He calls me to his office and I go there. And that guy has taught my kaka in 1970s or 80s, and I'm sitting here on late 90s, 1999 to be precise. So that guy assumes that this kid can do anything in his life kind of thing, just because I come from a family. So he says something to me in English, which I assume now will be like, there is 15th of August, every standard will have one kid doing, speech, right, for 15th of August. And he says, you have to do it in English. I think that's what he said. And I look at his face and I say, I know English. He's like, okay, good. And do it. And I'm like, why didn't he understand, right?
Okay.
I go home, I tell it to like my cousins, brother, and my parents that this and this happened. He told me, and then I said, I know English, but he clearly didn't understand what I was saying. And they turn around and ask, what were you trying to say? I'm like, that Maga English kalana. And they're like,
I know English.
I know English. So I didn't know the concept that there are words like do not and K and OW, right? So that guy clearly thought that I'm very confident that I know English and I will do it in English, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, next day I think I went to him and I spoke in Konkani and I told him I do not know English, but Konkani English karna,
Yeah.
So I think it's not very different
But I see that both of us are conducting this, I'm conducting this interview in English.
Yes.
We have gone through that same sort of process. I think for a long time I was also like, I'm from Marathi medium, so I need not know English.
Yes.
But then today I think you are doing work internationally. You have to speak in English. When you were at that time, what was your mindset like? Because obviously now you know that you know English. Like you don't know English, right?
Yeah.
Know English. So
yes.
how did what
At
is
that
there
point
like?
in time, I was pestering my mom to put me back into Marathi medium school, and I was not doing it in the nicest ways. Let's not go into the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And she also explained to me not of the nicest of the ways.
Back
And
then it was allowed.
back then it was totally allowed. And I effectively stayed in English medium. She put in a lot of hours trying to teach me how to write in cursive, how to read it, what does it mean, Oxford dictionary, so on and so forth. I think it was a long process, right? If you even see me like 15 years ago, right, which was when I was in engineering, probably I was not as fluent as what I am now, right, in English. So, yeah, there was a dent in my confidence, let's say, because I was not good at English in the early years.
It does. It does affect
It,
yourself.
it does affect yourself, and probably I overcompensated with the maths,
Mathematics. Yeah.
right? I don't know whether it's me or normal human stuff, but I was overcompensating on the math side effectively.
Yeah. So how was math like in high school? Was it the same?
Yeah, the thing was
Same like primary?
yeah, I
Still
think
counting
still
points?
counting in English now. So the thing that changed between maths in primary school versus early parts of the secondary school was the same, and there was no fun because I'm just changing the script and the language, right? I'm not really learning new thing in fifth and sixth
What
standard.
you mean to say here is maybe what if I'm getting it right, since I'm a math teacher and whatever.
Yeah, I may not use the right
No,
terminology.
so what you're saying is effectively from division you went into ratios.
Yes.
From division you went into percentages.
Yes.
Which is more or less the same thing.
More or less the same thing. So
Is that what you
see, the way I look at maths is, yeah, there are different things, right? You learn your basic operations in the first instance, counting, then basic operations, then you go into algebra and trigonometry, then you get into integration, differentials, so on and so forth, right? If you go into engineering maths, then you are going into building of series, right? So without getting into the complicated stuff, and in the MBA world, you are talking about statistics. So these are the different levels of progression. Now, what you learn in primary school, or at least what I learned, right, was up to division,
Yeah.
right?
Most of us learn that. It's the same.
So when I go to fifth and sixth, it was again addition, multiplication, division in English. But for me, it was not exciting. As soon as I picked up bare minimum English to read maths book, right, it was like this is the same stuff that I learned in fourth standard. It's not really adding value to me. Again, probably somebody would have told me, go to the playground and do something. So I'm like, okay, I've already done tables until 1000. I cannot sell the same story. So I need to do something else. And this time I tried to test division for the sake of it, right? So you take a number. No. This time around, I didn't go to 1000. I think with division, you lose steam very quickly.
Yeah.
So
it's a little complicated.
It's little bit complicated, and it's not so easy to do it mentally, right?
Yeah.
You need pen and paper for that. Don't use calculator, pen and paper.
Yeah.
So 1 to 10 or maybe up to 11 is what is typically taught in schools, right? But just to see if there is a pattern, because I was amazed by the patterns that you see in like 1 divided by 7, right? 1 divided by 7 has a classic pattern.
1428.
142857, which repeats 6 digits repeats every after 6 digits, right? So I was curious if there is pattern. So I did it until 200, and then I lost steam again.
Okay.
Right. I think I could have done more, but division is difficult.
So after you had, I knew about this from that. So after you told me this, like when I was teaching, I do it till 20.
Okay.
That's the max I go to, because then kids also get a little flustered. Like, what is it? What is this guy doing with us?
But I think the more important thing is it's about your muscle memory, right? Or brain memory, whichever way you want to call it. Let's try to draw a parallel of what I'm talking here to that of sports, right? if Virat Kohli is playing a good cricket, he's not playing off late, but let's say he's playing, take that off.
Back in the day.
Back in the days, or Sachin Tendulkar,
Yeah.
right? He played amazing cricket for 20 years. I think we only saw the part wherein he actually played the games, but I think he would have spent a lot more time in the nets practicing for it.
Yeah.
So the way you should typically look at it, or the way I looked at it, what you do in school is like playing a game, right? But doing this kind of things is a net practice, right?
Or even going to the gym for that matter too, so that you are.
Absolutely, because you are building muscle memory. So the next time you see a division by 7, you are not flustered by it because you exactly know what it is going to be. Or when a division by some other complex number will come.
And it really helps in later part, because then you don't have to go in that margin and do a lot of calculations that is what you lose steam in the real stuff because of that.
Absolutely.
Which is what they are substituting with a calculator these days.
Yes.
Right?
So calculator is not a bad thing, right? Today I use calculator, I use Excel, I use complicated models on computer, right? That is what I do. And that has also affected my ability to do mental maths now. So I am not as half good as what I was few years ago.
I want to bring this point. We are living in a country with such a big population. I don't think those competitive exams are going away, right?
No.
That's the only way to actually select.
Yes. So I think
Students.
competitive exams is a good point that you raised. See, right? So in school, after I touched upon that bare minimum amount of English, right? I was on track. I was again scoring like probably the full marks in maths and some of the other subjects. But there were other kids as well scoring the same amount of marks. So that, because I think the level was not there to test like what is the full spectrum of kids that you have in the class.
Yeah.
It was like, can we have these kids passing the subject? So it was more about churning out averages, right? Creating, because more than 90% of the kids will pass, right?
I
Those
think
exams.
given the schools that we went to, the schools were meant for like the mass majority.
Yes,
So-
because schools are designed to educate people. They are not designed for making someone really good, right? That's how I look into it. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But I think in a way I was lucky because there used to be some examinations, right, within the school. So, for example, you will have your normal half year and full year exams, wherein 10 kids will score the full marks. So it doesn't really matter who is good or who is bad. Everyone is equally good.
Yeah.
But there used to be some other exams, right?
What are those? Like, give examples.
So I
Remember.
think, if I remember, there used to be this Maharashtra Talent Search exam,
MTSE.
MTSE. There was maths competitive test, and then
MCT,
National Talent Search exam.
Yeah.
But my first
We'll come to National Talent Search. I want to have a small
okay.
discussion on that as well. But what I want to also point out is these days, whichever schools I go to, I roam around classes asking students to participate in these exams. And all I hear, even from so my students don't have a choice only. I register directly. Right? They don't have a choice. But with others, when I go there are these students who I would ask, whoever have got, let's say, 80% and above in mathematics, I just take the list of students and I ask them why you're not participating in MCT. They would be like, we are not prepared for it.
You will never
It's too difficult. Somebody who is topping in school, they are so happy in their own well. They would fight for that half mark if they get 19 and a half out of 20. They would fight for that half mark. Teacher, why did you cut my half mark? And they would rant about it the whole day. But it's actually, it angers me, right? But there are a lot of them who do not want to stretch themselves beyond. And I don't know what is the reason, but I would want to tell through this medium right now that there are these exams, MCT, GTSE, that are happening in Goa. NTSE doesn't happen anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, after COVID they stopped.
Okay.
But please participate in those exams. There are a few teachers who are doing wonderful job, especially the MCT is being conducted by all Goa Mathematics Teachers Associations, there are 5-6 teachers who are putting in their sweat and effort to just, and they're on the brink of their retirement, and they are still coming out with these competitions. I think that helps.
Yes,
right?
I see, like, even before I answered these exams, because those exams were in 8th, 9th and 10th standard, right? I think my first exposure to this kind of stuff happened in 7th standard. So at least in Wagre, I don't know which teacher did it. They had these few exams to just test the boundaries, let's put it that way, right? Wherein to see, like, if the same concepts, if it is stretched to an extreme, how many of these 10
Students
people who can actually get 100 out of 100
Yeah.
still do very good at it.
So basically the achievers,
Yes, so it's, let's say, normal exam plus plus,
Yeah.
right? And they had one of these, so I did good at that. I was number 1 in it. I don't know what they called it back then. And that kind of opened up the opportunities for me in a way, right? Because I was good at that, they assume that I'll be good at other things without actually knowing whether I'm good at those things or not.
yeah,
For example, one of the teachers came to me and said, we have this quiz competition in Ponda with all schools in Ponda, right? Why don't you do it? And I looked at him and said, yes, we'll do that. It's just that I didn't know one minor stuff, which is what is quiz, right?
yeah,
So I go home, open up my Oxford dictionary, search for words which might sound like quiz because I didn't even know the spelling of quiz, right? So I went
Did you
to
start with K? KW?
probably.
Yeah.
So
I did that, that's why.
yeah, probably that's what I did. And then I realized, yeah, they will be asking questions not on maths but various other things and I need to answer those.
Oh.
And now I had already said yes, and like in most of the movies, like एक बार मैंने कहा तो
Commitment कर ली तो
commitment कर ली तो
अपने आप की भी
भी नहीं
नहीं
सुनता. So because I said yes, I had to do it, right? So me and one of my classmates, we went to like Almeida High School for this competition, right? And there was first a written test of which they selected 4 schools. I think there were 5 schools in that competition. And they selected 4 for the verbal round.
You were selected.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was selected.
Yeah.
And then started the verbal round.
Yeah.
I think the kids from Almeida school were like miles apart from all the other 3 schools, right? Including,
Crashed basically.
yeah, like there could have been 10,000 schools in between 1 and 2. We were the second, by the way, I remember it. And there could have been 10,000 more schools in between, very clearly, right? The way we were answering. Because every question that we were passing, those guys were answering. It was like, oh my God, and none of the question came back to us. It never passed them, right? All 3 school questions were going to them and they were answering. And then it hit me like, I was thinking that I'm good,
Oh yeah.
but not as good as those guys, right?
You need to know that as well, right?
Yes.
I think when you live in a cocoon,
Yes.
that I am the Raja
Yes.
of this class, right? And I want to be always. You need to push yourself to a different competition.
Yes,
You need to push yourself.
If I didn't say yes to that teacher without realizing that what quiz means or what it sounds or spells like, right? Probably I wouldn't have known it for another couple of years, very likely, because I would have been happily in Wagre cocoon, thinking that I'm awesome.
And that also sets a trend, right? When you say yes to something that you don't know, it opens up opportunities for you to maybe know.
Yes.
Either know that where you stand, or maybe do well and know.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So in grade 8, 9, 10th and beyond, I did a lot of quizzing as well. I used to learn a lot of general knowledge books. I used to ask my brother or some of the relatives to bring those books. There used to be books called as Manorama back then. Because
still there.
Yes, back then I had a computer, but I used to only play video games on it. Not
Prince
really.
of Persia. No.
No, Age of Empires.
Age of Empires.
But not use it for Google because internet was not so common, right?
Yeah.
So we used to read hard books for those GK stuff. I used to participate in a lot.
Now it's much more easier for them. They can just go and log in and do a quiz and understand.
Yes and no, because all their competitors will be doing the same, right? The bar has been raised.
Yeah.
So they will need to use all media now, right?
Since you talk about the bar, I want to come to MCT, right?
Yes.
We do MCT preparations in my classroom, wherever. And there are some past papers available on the internet, so I make sure they answer them. Yeah. So just last month, I gave papers out. Everything was sent. Students are coming and saying, so 2011-12 difficult. 23 zata, 22 zata. So then I check the papers. I'm like, there is a vast difference. So even in the topmost examinations, the bar that you say, the bar, although it might have been raised for the quizzing in these real competitions, in Goa, the hyper-local test that happens, the bar of the highest, not the highest, but this is the highest test in Goa in terms of mathematics for school students, the whole level has come down.
So bar has been lowered.
Bar has been lowered for mathematics. And that actually shows in our national assessment survey.
Okay.
It has shown that. That means, and I think this has to be attributed to somewhere to RTE.
RTEs.
RTE is when they decided not to fail anyone till 8th standard.
Okay.
Right? Which meant students didn't have to bother about their exams. Which meant that by the time the students reached 9th standard, they were not as prepared as we used to be, maybe, right? Which meant there were more failures in 9th standard, and to control that, they had to bring the level down. Which I think it's a fact. And students have come and told me, they are sitting right here. They're like 2011 kar now, to asu. Ata hi hocha na itla difficult. Right? That's how it is. And I want to bring that out because that's the fact.
Yes.
Right?
So
because you talked about the bar.
Yeah.
How was your MCT preparation like? Did you prepare for MCT?
No. So in 8th standard, they asked me to go for this All Goa Mathematics quiz competition, I suppose.
No.
That's what I did when I was in 8th standard. So they used to have team of 3 from 10, 9th and 8th. I was the youngest. We were second in Ponda Taluka. You know who the first will be, obviously. Almeida. This time we didn't get thrashed. It was a close competition.
You improved a bit.
Yeah, we improved. We reduced the margin. Let's put it this way. It's like Bangladesh playing India, right?
Sometimes they beat us these days.
Yeah, so that was one of those. And I think they also looked at us the same way.
Yeah.
So in 8th grade. And then our maths teacher, Nayan teacher. So
say her full name so that we.
I don't know her full name actually.
Nayan
teacher. She's the headmistress now of Bagre High School. So she came and told me like, yeah, there was another test that we didn't know about and nobody participated from our school. Maybe we do it next time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So when I come to 9th standard, she reaches out to me, the forms are out, we'll put your name and few other kids and you go and answer. And my point of view on this one was always like, yeah, if there is a quiz in the evening, you open few books in the morning.
And
go, right? You need to remember some statistics like how many wickets did Kapil Dev take, right, throughout his career, because those are the kind of typical quiz questions. So I thought there will be some typical maths questions. So I opened up Shakuntala Devi book and went through some puzzles in the morning and went to Almeida school for the test. Test was in Almeida. Few weeks later, the results came out, and I was ranked 1.
Okay. Without any preparation.
Without any preparation. And
but there was preparation. In the sense that you might have not prepared for the exam.
No.
But just for the sheer effort that you put in doing those tables till 1000 or
all of those things.
All of those things which you have been doing.
Yes.
It kind of builds your.
Yes. So state rank 1 was a surprise, and then I was thinking like, if I prepared for few hours,
others doing?
What were the others doing? right?
Yeah.
Probably, again, it took my confidence up after getting beaten up by Almeida on so many occasions, right?
Yeah.
Saying that, yeah, maybe.
Maybe I have it in me.
Maybe I have it in me, right?
That year, 2005, 10th standard. NTSE is, by the way, it was a scholarship that was given by the central government to the top 1,000 students in the
India.
whole country uh, at 10th standard, and they gave scholarships till the end of your education.
Yeah, I got it until my MBA, I suppose.
Yeah. So it used to happen in two phases. One was the Goa round, the state round, and once you got selected in the top 25, those top 25 were allowed to answer the final.
Yes.
So for those top 25, there used to be training happening at SCRT, and I think it used to still happen until very recently. In Porvorim.
Yes.
And that year, our year, we had 8 students qualify for the
final
round, which was the interview round, which they cancelled later on, and only one student did not get. I know all of them. That's another thing. Like, I was lucky to meet all of them somehow. Right?
Yes.
There was Nitish, there was Mayank. Nitish went to IIT, Mayank went to IIT. Niti Bandodkar, she went to BITS, and then now she's in the US. Who else? Viraj, Nikhil, all of them, although they studied in GEC, they are running good companies now. And Nitish and Viraj is working together.
Yes.
And I think Nitish and Viraj have never studied together. The only place they met was for that training session. So what this can do to the child is, if you take these opportunities, you will meet with other people who are as brilliant. And that's where things will start moving for you. Remember that all of you, basically, if we live our full life, we'll die together. Right? We were born together, like we are. Like,
yeah, almost.
He's just a little older than me. Yeah, but if we were born together, we will die with this same set of people. So what is the most important thing? Who will be with you entire life is your peers and your friends.
Yep.
And if you want to find peers of your kind, do things that you love to the fullest, so that you find other people around you. Don't be under that bubble that that I want to do.
See, like, one of the important thing is, this was told to me by one of my bosses, and probably I have seen it on Instagram of late as well. You are you are the average of top 5% of the time you are average
Top 5
of
people.
Top 5. You are average of the top 5 people you spend your time with, right? Maximum time with. So I think it is extremely important that you select your peer group. I know, like, a lot of you kids will be having your friends from primary school, secondary school. They will hang on, right? They will be always there to support you. But it doesn't mean that you need to always spend time on it. Things will evolve over a period of time. And keep on trying to be that 5th person in the list in terms of what you want to achieve. Others will pull you up, right? You will do it for others in different parts of your school or work life, right? But try to spend time with people whom you look forward to or try to learn from, right? Because that is a better boost than listening to someone talking about himself or herself like this, because this is of lesser use than much lesser use than whom you actually spend your time with, and that is super important. And only when you actually push the boundaries, you do realize, right, how good it was. By the way, I also took up chess in 9th or 10th standard. I learned chess in my 8th grade.
So you did play a sport.
Yeah, there was a lot of effort involved.
No, but yeah.
So, and again, I was very good at it. That's what I thought. And I used to win the competition within Wagre High School and even at Ponda level. And then there was all Goa stuff. And my sports teacher, right, told me to go play chess at state level. I don't remember, there was this girl, I think her last name was Konkani, and she had a very high FIDE rating or something like that. It ended up being one of my matches with her. I don't even remember how fast I lost, right? I was like, is it over? So, I was like, and then that was a very humbling experience again, right? And it is very important that you get this experience early on, because you don't want to come out of that surprise when you're 40 years old, right? So try to get smashed in your face with this kind of early losses, right? Because that helps you get better over a period of time. Because if you don't do it now and you get that shock later, it's very difficult, because at this point in time as a kid, you will have your parents, your siblings supporting you, your cousins supporting you, which is the kind of support system even I enjoyed, right? So try to have those setbacks early on. So if there is an exam and you have prepared negatively for it, let's put it that way.
What does that mean?
So some people prepare for exam, right, to add value when they are actually answering the exam. Some people go without preparation, right? And then there is people who do negative stuff, like probably not sleeping before the exam day, right? Because they were anxious about it. Don't do any of that, right? Just go answer, because it's like answering an exam is like tossing a coin, right? When you toss a coin, there is a half a chance that it will be head, half a tail, right? Either you will pass or you will fail. Very simple stuff. There are only two outcomes in there. But when you don't answer the exam, it's 100% fail, right? Just don't tell anyone that I didn't answer the exam, otherwise I would have aced it. So that
this is a very good way out, right? Easy way out.
Easy way out. It's just that I didn't answer the exam.
I didn't do. That's why I didn't get it. Yeah.
म्हाका खबर आशिल्लें कितें येवपा आशिल्लें तें पूण
I did it with English, for example. Whenever somebody used to speak to me in English till 10th standard, I was like a Marathi medium. Direct Marathi medium, nahi aata. I used to reply back in Konkani or Marathi.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So we do that. As in, it's a way of it's a coping mechanism to preserve yourself.
Yes.
And I think a lot of I have done it myself. I'm a live example. I have done it in many cases where I'm not prepared, so that the outcome is, okay, I can say I didn't prepare and yet passed.
Yes.
Yes. But never prepared for the full mile, so that I've done that, and it's an easy escape.
Yes, there is no heroism in that, by the way. So
you feel like a hero at that point, though.
Yeah, and there will be your friends, right, who will tell you, man, you could have done it.
Yeah.
But it's just that you didn't prepare for it. Leave them. Right? That's a right indication to move on. Right? So always think about it as a kid, and when you are selecting your peer group. So whosoever tells you, even if it is your parents, right?
Take a critical feedback.
Take a critical feedback, think over it, sleep over it, right? But never miss out on these things. Like we say it in Konkani, right? Baba korun taka exam
Baba puta.
Baba puta, right? So don't do that to your kids as well. Like if they are coming out with a reason not to answer an exam, even of a subject that they don't like, just kick them, throw them out of the house. They will go and answer the exam, right? So make that happen, because at least they will know how deep underwater they are, or they are not, right?
Yeah, anything that they want to succeed in.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So I have this one student who is sitting in the audience. I won't look at that person right now. I enrolled him for GTSE very recently, without his approval.
I think he's one of those two guys.
Yeah. Without his approval, and he was like, and then I asked him, he's like, "Kidyak kuru maka naka karpa Sunday waste." Sunday waste was his. I'm like Sunday waste एक दिस waste ना त्याच्यामध्ये तू prepare करून घेतलो. I ना तू just go and answer. Don't prepare for it, but answer, right? And my whole question that I asked him, like, do you want to stop studying after 10th standard? That's the thing, right? Like everybody wants to go to college. Everybody, when they look at these very same people watch videos of physics wala and get inspired and come and ask me, let's do quantum mechanics today. Right? At 8th standard and 9th standard. Because it's a nice word to look at. Right? Quantum. I don't understand quantum mechanics even today.
Even if I knew, I forgot it already.
Yeah. So there is this trend among kids to get awed by the kind of knowledge that is out there. It's a side effect of the YouTube phenomena that we are going through. There's so much content, it's being thrown at you. You go on Instagram, in all spheres, there is too much information. And I think it was through a reel only that I got to know yesterday that Yuval Noah Harari, he was saying that more information is not really good.
No.
It's not necessary that it's good. But we are made to believe through education that information is wealth. Right? More information doesn't mean you have wisdom.
Yeah, that's right.
It just means you have a lot of data.
Yes.
But if you don't have the capability to analyze and put it into the correct box, then it means that information is actually, that, like you said, negative.
Yes.
It's negatively preparing for life.
Yes.
Right? My 11th standard was, for the first 6 months I did, like what happened to you in Wagre happened to me in 11th standard. I didn't know what I was looking at. There was algebra, coordinate geometry, all of these things happening, and then derivatives and all of that coming in. How did you cope up with so much? Because today you can go on YouTube and look at a visualization of what a slope looks like, what is differentiation, what is integration. There's a lot of mechanics going on there. But back then we didn't have, we had to go through those books.
Yes.
And I remember till December I was lost. I was supposed to tell my father, remove me out of science. That was my ever. But I just want to share this experience as well, that on 15th of December, actually on 15th of December today, in 2005. 2005.
Yes.
I opened a book called Thomas and Finney, and in the next 15 days, I used to stay up at night from 11 to 2, 3. And in the next 15 days, I finished all of calculus. That till date, I know that much only, right, in calculus.
That's good enough.
Only in 15 days. So I just wanted to share this because someone who thought he was so dumb. I thought I was like dumb. I didn't know anything. And suddenly in those 15 days, I completed all of calculus. And sometimes you have these bursts. So look for them. Don't ever give up. So this is something that I want to tell because you brought it up. How did you prepare for this? Was it easy for you? Like it just came to you, or what?
No, I think there were 3 elements and 3 very different elements. One is at GVM's for Magudi, we had an amazing maths teacher back then, very experienced, Mathur.
Name.
Right? Mathur. Yeah, I don't remember his other name, by the way.
Mathur, sir.
Mathur, sir.
Yeah.
Right? So that guy used to teach really well. So I think he was probably one of the best. Because I only studied 11th and 12th from him, I don't have a benchmark, right? But he was good on an absolute basis. So that was element number 1. Element number 2 is I went through every page of Brilliant tutorial stuff, and I tried to solve each one of those problems, and wherever I struggled, I cheated by looking behind, right, what the solution looks like, and then practiced it. So
just sheer deliberate practice.
Practice, right?
Yeah,
and
there is no substitute for that.
Yes, absolutely. And the third thing is, I used to provide full concentration in class when Mathur sir was teaching, or when the science or physics or chemistry teachers were teaching, right?
Yeah. You tell about that, but before that, let me tell you one of the fiercest face of Rushikesh that I have seen in the first year. Because we were in Calicut, we were just hanging out and whatever, having fun. Suddenly one day Rushikesh lashes out at this one guy. तुम्हें बोला था मत करो, अगली बार किया तो तुझे मैं मार दूंगा, whatever, something like that. Right? And I'm like, what happened? Why are you fighting? And I'm trying to calm these people down. And all that had happened, he told me in the evening because he was angry at that point. And he told me, no, he was disturbing me in class. So basically, this guy wanted to listen to a teacher, and there was this other guy who was troubling him, and he was so angry. just because somebody else was taking his attention away.
Yes.
Right? So that is how much he values. I could understand, how much he values that time that he puts into anything that he does in, especially when
I think
you
you
study.
just saw it here, right? When you were like, few more people will come, give me 2
Yeah.
minutes. I'm like, just start.
Start, yeah. Yeah, don't waste time. Yeah.
So I think that is very important because all of us have 24 hours. Nobody has an advantage of 28 hours in a day, right? So that's a resource which is same
Scarce.
across all of them, right? So every competition or every race that you are into, right or wrong word, choice of words from my side, everyone has got the same amount of time, right? Where you reach with that time and the resources available will depend on how efficiently you use every single minute out of it, right? And you need to be very focused on whatever you do, whether you are playing cricket, right? You are trying to learn a musical instrument, you are trying to learn an art. Just give your 100%, maybe more if possible, in doing that at that point in time, so you don't have to repeat it again as many times.
And it's when you give your 100% that and more, when you say that and more, is basically what I understand from what you're saying, is you are saying कि अगर इतना हो रहा है तो इसके लिए aim करो.
Yes.
Challenge yourself to do better than what you are already doing.
Because this 100 is never shown on a scale. Like if you are sitting in a class, it's not like there is a meter over that which shows that Siddharaj is operating at 92% capacity. You can go to 100. There is no such meter.
There is no top ceiling.
There is no top ceiling. That scale is in your head, right? You will believe whether you are at 100, 10, 50, whatever the number, right? Try to push it so that you don't have to do it again. Like very often, even during my engineering days, you would remember that even day before the exam, when everyone was studying, I used to be as chill as like normal days.
Yeah.
I was not spending more time because I think there were two elements to it. One, I used to keep very high concentration or attention in the classroom.
Yeah.
And other one is, back then when I was younger, I had a better memory, right? I used to remember
I think
things.
memory is also a function of concentration.
Maybe.
Memory is a function of concentration. If you are able to concentrate for longer, there is more information going in.
Yep.
There is more retention automatically because you are actively looking and listening and doing all of those things very actively.
And as a kid, it's very easy to do that, by the way. When you get elder, right,
Yeah.
it's very difficult. Ask your parents, because when they're working in their office or wherever they are, right, they must be thinking like, have I paid that bill? Have I actually made sure that school fees have been paid? I had to buy those groceries, right? All those things will be going through their mind.
Yeah.
For kids, it's very simple. It's a noiseless, nothing in there, right? You don't have to think about what is the reel on Instagram. If you are doing that, you are doing it wrong, right? Just focus on those studies, because you will have two choices in life: struggle in early years or struggle in late years, right? Try to struggle in early years because you will have that support system to take care of you. So in late years, you are probably supporting somebody else, and if you are struggling at that point in time, it won't be nice.
That's very effective. Like you put it in such plain, simple, blunt manner that I think there are some bulbs going tuck, right? I hope I'll have better time in the classroom.
Hopefully I have not offended people and I can walk out peacefully.
No, I want you to be blunt because this is something that that's been your philosophy. I'm not saying that everybody needs to have this philosophy, but it's one of the things that you have a choice of.
Yep.
This exists in this world, and you have been doing fine for yourself with this philosophy, right? You get you pass out the top of your class in mechanical engineering, then you get a job at Tata, right? Tata Motors, Pune. I have visited you there in 2012, 11, 12.
And
then suddenly one day I get to know that you are in IIM Lucknow. Tell me I got into IIM Lucknow. Why, after putting in so much effort, getting that uh, getting that gold medal and all of that? I'll ask you the same questions people asked me when I started teaching young kids. They're like, engineering kidak kela hai? If you had to teach these young boys and girls who are in their teenage, why did you even do engineering? I ask you that same thing. Why, if you put so much effort, got that gold medal, why go to MBA?
I think just a short answer on the question that you didn't ask, which is like, why do engineering, right? There was that small phrase. I think if you are a good, high-scoring student, you do science in 11th, 12th, and then you either do medicine because you really want to
Medical.
save lives, right? And all others do engineering.
In India. Yeah.
Right? So because that is a natural choice.
There's not much offered in this
I
country.
don't know, like that's a natural choice because the previous generation or your other siblings have done the same. So you tend to follow that. And I think I was part of the same camp. And if you ask me,
what you are essentially saying is, at the age of 17, when we are asked to choose, or actually we are asked to choose at 15 only,
yes,
you have you don't even know the world,
yes,
and you go into it
yes,
because, chal, hai saiba, right?
Yes.
Like, you just go,
Yes.
and then you actually make your choice at once you're out of college, because
Yes.
you have more knowledge of the world.
yes,
So sometimes, yeah, this is a very important thing, because everybody needs to know that even if you are in graduation, you're doing graduation, right? I have my brother here in the audience. My brother came to me in Pune when he was doing engineering. And in third year, I asked him, "Kida kortlo re? What are you doing next year?" Hey, engineering only, because I've put in so much effort, I will go and do engineering. And today he's also into finance. He has done MBA and now he's also into finance. What I want to bring out is, if you are not happy with what you're doing, it's okay to switch your professions, right?
yeah, like you just need to do it practically, right? Don't take that particular statement theoretically, because if you have actually spent 3 years, probably it's worth to spend another year,
Yeah.
right? Don't go to your parents saying that आता 20 लाख बुडले हा म्हणून आता म्हाका कितें दुसरें करपा जाय म्हणून मार खातले आनी काय जावपा ना.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's very important. You need to look at these particular things in a very practical fashion. So I'll tell you my point of view on it, right? Third year of engineering, I was around top rank 1, rank 2 in mechanical engineering. So did I enjoy? I think I enjoyed the mathematical part of it, right? But if you ask me, I go and drive a car, listen to that music of car engine firing up. Hell no, that was not my cup of tea,
Yeah.
right? I still don't know how to drive a car. Everyone looks at me as like, you don't drive a car? I'm like, no, I don't drive a car. I always ask for either my cousins, my brother, my
You
sister-in-law,
are the
my
youngest,
friends, right? Somebody to drive me around. I like to be chauffeured around. Like back in Abu Dhabi, my wife chauffeurs me around, and everyone is like, what? She's also taking care of kids, and you? I'm like, yes, she has got 3 kids. So I think that is one element, right? I was not into the mechanical engineering part of it, right? I
You were
realized
in it for math.
I was in it for maths, and even the courses that I took in third year and fourth year, which were the electives, were heavily maths dominated.
Supply chain.
I took
remember.
supply chain, MBA,
Finite
basics of
element.
MBA, basics of finance, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Nothing related to mechanical engineering on one side, and on the other side, I took things like particle dynamics and other stuff, which has
FEM, I guess.
yes, fluid dynamics and everything, very heavy on
Finite
maths,
element methods
right?
and
It had nothing practical around mechanical engineering, nothing that I would have ever done, right? I need to end up at Baba Atomic Research Center to do any of it, and I was not looking that as a career
So
prospect.
suddenly, out of nowhere, you're like, okay, I was doing it for math, so let's do finance. That's
No, that's not happened in engineering, by the way. Wait.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I graduated with gold medal. I joined Tata Motors. And that's where the reality hit again, right? Every now and then there was a reality check. And this was the reality check because I came out of NIT Calicut cocoon, wherein I was like rank 1. I was like, I can ace in anything. When I went to Tata Motors, I realized that as a part of my job description, engineering is less than 20% of it.
Okay.
Right? It was more about managing people, and the people who were successful were actually better at managing people. I'm like, they are not particularly better at solving maths problems or an engineering problem. So that came as one of the realization. The other realization which kind of struck me is engineers don't get paid as much, right? And धंधा तो पैसे पे ही चलता है. Very simple, right? It's not complicated.
The outcome is important.
Outcome is important because I'm neither using my technical capabilities nor am I getting paid.
No challenge, no remuneration.
No remuneration. What the hell am I doing, right?
Why did I put in so much?
Why did I put in so much of efforts? Now what's the way out? Either I go and do something like MS, MTech or MBA. And I realized from my seniors in Tata Motors, yeah, the MBAs get paid more. Okay. And that's where I thought, like, I'll try for an MBA. I went and registered myself for CAT, Z, which is for Xavier's, right?
So
And
tuition? Did you take tuition?
no tuition. I was working, right? When will I do tuition?
So there also you didn't take any?
No, absolutely zero. On that one, I remember, like, I went through some of the CAT papers. The two papers were very maths heavy. And if
BI and quant.
I forgot the names, yeah. Something like
Data
quant and
interpretation
data
and quant.
interpretation and quant. If you ask me, it was not materially different than the MCT that I answered in 9th and 10th standard,
It's 10th standard math, guys.
right?
You go the whole route and come back to MCT.
So it's like I went to 9th and 10th maths to 11th, 12th maths, which is fairly complicated, and step jump from 9th and 10th to engineering maths. And I also did very complicated engineering maths subjects in 3rd and 4th year, only to come back to 9th and 10th maths standard in CAT, right?
Which you got you the opportunity to do the job that you're doing today.
Yes, but there was a third subject, right? CAT has 3 elements.
Okay.
Third one was English, right? And English was still my problem area. When I answered certain test exams on CAT, I was right 99.9 something percentile on 2 maths subjects. I was 88 percentile, 90 percentile on English. Just to set the context here, if you want to get into top IIMs, you need like 99.8, 99.9.
And that you got that.
Yeah, so eventually I got it, but I had to focus a lot on English because what happened with me in IIT JEE in physics, right? I tripped over physics. I could not afford that.
So that was a possibility in
CAT, very high
English.
possibility, right, in English, in CAT. So my daily routine was very simple. I did zero preparation on maths and data interpretation for a period of
It's
3 or
not
4
zero,
months.
guys. He has done it for so long. You can't be calling it zero. That is
Yeah.
what students will go and tell. No, in maths.
No. So I worked on maths for 20 years and I didn't do it for last 3 months. Okay.
Good.
Just to correct myself. So for the last 3 months, what I was doing was very simple. I leave office exactly at the time when I'm supposed to leave, not an extra minute. Go back home, read Economic Times and Financial Times for 3 hours without even realizing what the hell it is.
So
right?
all that finance thing came from Economic Times.
I think economics came from there. Finance and economics are slightly different, but more or less. So not yet. I'm still not into finance. I'm reading those subjects just because if I look at different levels of newspapers, without naming those, these two are at the top in terms of the quality of English that you can read.
Oh, okay.
Right? Just because of quality of English. And I asked few seniors from NIT, what is a good paper to read to improve my English?
And that's another important thing. Your peers there, your seniors there, they are a big support system when you're in college.
Yep.
Right? And I think if you ask me, why should somebody go to a better college? It's not for the teaching. It's not for the professors. It's only for the fact that you are being filtered out of this system and you end up with people who are doing really well for themselves.
Yep. So I learned English. I did well. I scored like 99.8 percentile in CAT.
Again, that's what you required to get.
Yes, that's what I required. And with that, I thought I'm getting into IIM Ahmedabad. It's so very easy.
All calls.
All calls because I'm a gold medalist at NIT Calicut. Right. I have 10 months of experience at Tata Motors. I scored 99.8 percentile. So in a group of 2 lakh people, I'm in top 400. If they don't call me, whom they will call? It's confidence, right?
Yeah, Raja.
2 weeks later, I get one single call out of top 6 IIMs.
Okay.
Only IIM Lucknow.
But why is that? Like, should not be, no?
Should not be, but then I read through their criteria. So they had a criteria which gave weightage to your work experience, your graduation, which was my engineering, how you did it in your 12th and 10th. And I'm like, oh my God, after passing those exams like 6 or 8 years ago, I realized those are haunting me back. That how badly I did it in Konkani subject in 10th standard.
That's very sad.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it was very simple for them. Like, how do you... So, by the way, when you are selecting students for MBA, if you have to filter out 2 lakh people, right, to get to like top 500, you don't go and talk to each of those 2 lakh.
Out of 12 lakh. Yeah, okay, 2 lakh for the
Interviews, right?
Yeah.
No. CAT has lower participation than JEE.
Okay.
JEE goes into like 10, 20 lakhs,
Okay.
right? So, like, you do not go to each of those students and try to judge them. You find certain criteria to knock them out. It's not a selection criteria, it's a rejection criteria, right? And if you don't have that 90% in your 10th and 12th, you are out for certain IIMs. So they won't even look at your CAT score. So I was not in ABC, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta.
It's largely arbitrary, no? Like,
you can call it arbitrary. If you are on the losing side of it, you will call it arbitrary. If you are on the winning side of it, you will say that's the right way of doing it, right? That's how it always works.
Outcomes.
It's based on outcomes.
No, but why I'm saying this is arbitrary is because if you are coming from Goa board, at least during our times, in my 10th standard, the highest percentage, Neeraj got it, Neeraj Borkar, was 91.6.
Yeah, I probably required 94% in my 10th. After 6 years of passing it, that I realized that I cannot do it now.
So,
right?
What I'm coming to is, but back then, those very same people who didn't get a rank, who didn't stand in gold medal, whatever, but who came from CBSE board, who came from Kendriya Vidyalaya, were getting 99, 99.5, 99.8.
So they got calls.
Exactly. What I mean to say is it's arbitrary in that sense because at a 10 standard level, nobody tells you this.
No, like I don't think any of my relatives or friends knew about this thing that top IIMs will have this criteria 6 years later.
So if at all somebody is aiming for an MBA in the future.
If you want to keep that door open, right, at this point in time, at certain point in time, I will go and do that MBA. Try to go to a school which gives you 100%, right? And whatever extra that you want to learn from somewhere else, right? Go to YouTube, go to Physics Wala, go to this guy, do whatever you want.
Thank you.
Marketing. Right? Go and do it outside, but if you want to keep that door open, right? Go to the school. I don't know which that school is, which that board is. You will figure it out, right? Try to go and get maximum score because the way education system works, right? It is to eliminate or reject people because we have such a large mass. You cannot have a perfect system which can judge every single kid, right? So do not be on the worse end of it by taking certain choices now. Do not go patriotic about it, saying that I'm a Goan, I want to be Goa State Board student, right? There is no pride in it, right? If Goa board for the same amount of efforts gives you 85%, some other board gives you 99%, go take 99%. Keep it very simple, right? Because you might regret it in the future when you have zero actionable item out of it. Right? Don't get into that regret. I was in that zone. Right. Even for IIM Lucknow, I just crossed that line. Thanks to my gold medal and everything, high score in NIT Calicut. If I was like even few ranks below, I wouldn't have made it into IIM Lucknow. Right? So now just to set the context, I get into IIM Lucknow, but I didn't get into the first list. Each of the IIMs comes out with a list and a waiting list. Right? So when I saw the results coming out in April, I'm like, I'm not there. So FMS, I didn't make through. Accelerate, I didn't make through. Now suddenly in mid-May 2012, I get a call, email, right, on my Gmail saying that you have cleared third waiting list or second waiting list of IIM Lucknow, right? So they had like 450 kids coming onto the campus for that particular batch, 2012 to 2014. I was probably the last 25 kids of it, right, getting into IIM Lucknow. So
Where did you end up after?
um, two
By
years
the time-
2 years later, I was ranked 6th out of 450, right, top 2% of the batch. And this is, I think, see, like when you get into these kind of institutes, whether it's IIMs, IITs, XLRI, or triple ITs, NITs, if you ask me, when they say in Hindi 19-20 का फर्क है, ठीक है, उतना भी नहीं होता है. It's like 19.9 or 20 का फर्क है. Everyone is almost at the same level, right? Because these students have come after very rigorous filtration process. You might be top of your class, top of the state, right? You go there and you suddenly realize you are just average.
Yeah.
You cannot outsmart them. So be humble about it as and when you get there.
How
Right?
did you do it?
By getting smashed in your face within few months. First test, you will realize how deep underwater you are, right? Yeah. Some of the students coming from certain northern states, you will be like awed by the level of depth they have on certain subjects like physics or maths. By far, probably I was not the best guy in maths at NIT. There were many others who were very good. I think same would apply at IIM. There were guys who actually went and represented India for maths Olympiad.
Yeah.
Right? Both at NIT and at IIM, who was there with me. There was a guy who went and represented astrophysics or astronomy Olympiad. So these were the kind of students that I was studying with. So when you look at them when I used to look at them at NIT, I used to look at them as a competition, right? And I was wrong. They are actually an asset. They are not your competition. When I went to IIM, because the way the teaching material is set up or the whole course is set up is not about you. It's about how you work with people, right? If you try to be solo, there is no chance you succeed in that.
Yeah.
You have to work with people. You have to leverage on each other's capabilities. I think I digressed, but I went to IIM not for finance, just to be clear. Even during the group discussion and personal interviews, when I was asked by some of the professors for IIM Lucknow selection, what do you want to do? And I was very confidently and honestly, right, telling them I want to do MBA in operations management. Now, what is operations management is how to set up factories, how to set up supply chains. I'm a mechanical engineer. I saw those things at Tata Motors floor. I saw some of the seniors who were doing really well, and that's what I had in my mind. That was my frame of mind, that I will do it in operations management. During the first term of MBA, so MBA has 6 terms, right, over 2 years, so 3 months each. So during the first term, I realized that operations management and finance are considered couple of most difficult subjects, right, even in the MBA world, and not many people like it. But at that point in time, the placements were going on for our seniors.
Okay.
And then I realized that on the spectrum in consulting, marketing, IT services, financial services, operations management, people got paid differently.
Okay.
So the finance guys were on the extreme right of it.
Getting paid good?
Very well.
Okay.
And operations management were on the left end of it. Right?
So very easy decision for you.
Very easy decision. And during the first term, I realized that operations management is actually on a relative basis tougher than finance.
Okay.
So simple thing in my mind, ज़्यादा मेहनत करके कम पैसे क्यों कमाऊँ, right? So I need to go to the finance. So I think that was a very simple thought process. And at that point in time, IIMs had increased the intake of CA students.
Okay.
Like historically, 85% of the IIM batches used to be engineers, IITs and NITs, right?
Yeah.
But that year it changed to more like 50-50.
50% CA commerce.
CA, commerce, arts, doctors, lawyers, all kind of people, but dominated by CAs in non-engineering categories.
But then how did you end up with this job then? Like,
Yeah, I think, see, NIT was a very easy peasy for me, right? You focus in the class, everyone is what they used to call as chill max, right? Engineering to chill marne jate hain. That was the attitude. So on a relative scale, I think
you are better off.
I was better off. In MBA, tables turn, right?
Everybody was in it for the
Yeah, because
package.
all those people who came in there have burnt their fingers in their graduation. That was the bottom line. They wanted to change.
So your bar changed.
So bar
Bottom
changed.
line.
So these very talented, very smart people are actually very brutal as well at that point in time in terms of competition, because this is their second chance at changing their career, and if they miss out on it, they lose out,
Yeah.
right? So everyone is super competitive there, unlike engineering colleges, right? So how do you actually outsmart these guys? And the bottom line is you cannot outsmart these guys, because again, as I told you, some of the guys who came from engineering, most of them were from IITs. The CA guys were double-digit rankers. Getting a double-digit rank in CA is not a joke, right? You had some top lawyers in there coming in. We had doctors, very different kind of profiles, right? And it was like, how do you actually beat this competition? And the answer was very simple. You have 24 hours. What do you do in those 24 hours? So I think for a period of those 2 years,
outwork.
You outwork. You can, if you cannot outsmart, you outwork, right? NIT was about outsmarting, right? This was, I don't think there is a word called as outwork. Probably
I don't know, but
Oxford will
it's
sue
fine.
us, but
That's okay. We are Marathi medium.
yeah, we are Marathi medium. So you go and outwork,
Yeah.
right? So I remember for all the 6 terms,
Yeah.
I used to clock 90 hours a week.
90 hours a week.
90 hours a week,
किती
non-stop,
असतं रे?
168.
Okay.
I also changed my sleeping pattern.
Okay.
All of us sleep 7 times a week if you sleep once a day. Right? So how do you optimize that further? You sleep every 28 hours.
Okay.
So you sleep 6 times a week. But your sleeping time will be different for all the 6 days. And you repeat.
Oh my God.
So that's how I added like 8 hours into my schedule effectively. Because I'm efficient if I sleep 8 hours straight. But I don't, 16 hours is not good enough.
You were speaking of it as if it's a machine, mechanical thing.
It's a very
device.
mechanical, it's a mechanical device, right? You're just train your brain,
Okay.
right? Just try to squeeze those extra 8 hours and that will turn the magic on, right? So I was very brutal because there was, in IIM, there is a concept of summer placement and final placement. What is summer placement is internship, right? So when you are preparing for internship, I was very confident that I will get into finance again.
Yeah.
But then I realized that my CV did not get shortlisted by a single finance company for the entire summer placement. I ended up at Amazon, amazing organization, right? What I learned in 2 months over there, probably other organizations could have never taught me. I'm not going to spend time on it. But I realized that this is not good enough. I need a pretty strong CV for my final placements 10 months or 15 months down the line, right? So I started my own personal trading. So I used to get a small stipend and some educational loan. Combined the two, created my trading portfolio. I started trading, right, so that I can have a story to tell someone, right, for a final interview, if I get one.
Okay.
Right, so that was the thought process. Plus, I was very confident.
Very well planned to.
Yeah, so you have 15 months of time. Plus, you have seniors who tell you to do this stuff. Right, so it's, as he said, some of these top institutes has a benefit of peer group, right? And this peer group tends to stay with you for years, decades, right? At that point in time, somebody told me, you have zero reason to be in finance or somebody to believe that you need to be in finance. You will get call from all the operations management companies, but not a single finance companies. The guy was spot on for my summers. He said, take as many finance and economics courses in second year. So I loaded up my second year with finance and economics, right?
So that you get calls.
So that I have a very strong CV to say that I'm a 9-pointer in finance and economics, right? Or I have a trading experience. So I built up that CV. So for all of that, to go and beat CAs at their own game, right? Which they have practiced.
And CA is something, it's one of the most difficult examinations to crack.
Correct. So, and I have no right to win in their own playground, right?
Yeah.
For example, it's like Virat Kohli. I'm not saying that I'm as good as Virat Kohli, but let's say a cricketer is being thrown into javelin throw competition. That's what it was, right? So I'm like, I want to change my game and go from cricket to javelin throw.
Yeah.
So I need to actually train different muscles here. And for that, I don't have like ample amount of time like when you have it in your early schooling days. I have like those 10, 15 months, right, to get cracking. So, and that's why those 90 hours a week, change in sleeping patterns, change in eating patterns, you do all of that, right? And you get your CV in position, for the lack of better words, or your profile in a better position. And towards the end of it, I get call from, so I was ranked 6, right, in IIM Lucknow. I was in the bottom 25 out of 450 people.
That's a huge improvement right there.
I changed to top 6 while I was changing my core course of education for the MBA. So from operations management to finance. So I was changing my game and I was doing it in a big way, right? Now, that was the year when finance companies were in shortage.
Okay.
2014 was not considered one of the better years for MBA grads getting placed in finance. Those were the years when likes of Flipkart, Amazon used to take people in trucks.
Okay, because they were growing.
They were growing and finance companies were shrinking because things were not so great in the US market, right?
Yeah.
Obviously...
Because it was post 2008, 4 years,
yes,
5 years.
4-5 years. It was still ramping up very slowly. India had its own little bit of crisis from the central bank side, which they were managing, right?
I'll just say that in the interest of time, I will ask you to jump to your placement story, because whatever life you have led after that in finance, that you have traveled to UAE, and all your finance career has happened there.
Yep.
Right. In the interest of time, that I would want you to narrate the placement story that you told me in 2016. This was, you were down and I was traveling by your house, and on the bike I came to your place, and he was explaining me how it is probabilistically very much impossible for him to get through the whole competition. So just narrate that story so that they have an idea of what happened during those.
Let's focus on outcome first and then walk backwards on this one, right? In terms of outcome, I got placed in one of the largest Middle Eastern real estate and entertainment player in their treasury, right?
What's the name?
Majid Al Futtaim. Okay. So MAF, let's call it MAF, right? It is one of the biggest Middle Eastern name, right? Even people with 20 years of experience would kill each other to get into that, right? They come to campus once in 10 years and they don't tell you which year it will be, right? Luckily for me, right, they came to only one campus that year across all IIMs, and it was IIM Lucknow. The chances of that happening are like...
In the end, Goa board helped.
The chances of that thing happening was like super slim, right? On their side. Nothing to do with me, right? Me getting into IIM was such a low probability event thanks to my very poor scores in 10th and 12th. Right? Poor scores just to get the context
so
here.
you had accounted for all of that before telling me.
Yes. So
the condition.
84% in 10th, 79% in 12th. And those are poor scores, just to be clear, right? with those odds, getting a gold medal, which was one of the reasons at NIT, right? That is again a very low probability event, right? Cracking through into IIM Lucknow into the last part, and then changing the course, getting into top 2%. If I put, I think there will be more like 1 in 1,000, 1 in 100 kind of probabilities on each of these events, right? If you multiply it, right,
It's a very low probability.
you are looking at 1 in a 10 million kind of event, which does not happen very often by design, right? So that's what it was. And then when all of these things are happening, I have to compete with others. It's not like they came for Rushi. They were like, we want a guy or a girl from IIM Lucknow. That was their ask. They didn't
One position?
One position.
Okay.
One position. And everyone was killing each other.
So then there were IITians with you, there would be CAs,
CAs.
there would be other Xaviers, for example.
Absolutely.
All kinds.
Yeah,
right?
all kinds, right?
How did you stand out then?
I think thanks to my score, I was on the level ground, but those guys had more stars on their shoulder than I did. Let's put it that way, because they had longer experience and everything. So I cracked through multiple rounds of written exam and then group discussion. Everything that I did for CAT, I was doing it again.
How many rounds?
I think we had like 4 or 5 rounds, right? And then the final round was a personal interview, and there were like 5 or 6 of us into that.
So 1 out of 5 or 6 were getting placed at that.
Yes, at that point in time. So I think others were called in first. They were taking their interviews. I was like, this is not a good story, because if I'm not in queue up front, probably I didn't score well in the previous rounds. I just got into those top 5 or 6. So I go into this room, and there is one Italian gentleman, one Indian lady, right? And they are taking interview, and it's going like a normal interview. There is no wow factor so far, right? And very often in interviews, it's about wow factor, right? You need to be amazed at something. Otherwise, you are just at another kid. So how do you really choose that person? And that guy asked me a very technical question, and the question was, are stock markets efficient?
Okay.
A very generic question, right? The answer can be as simple as yes or no, or it can be yes but, no but kind of answer, right? And I think, I don't know for what reason I did it, but it came to me that the way I explained that question, and my answer was no, it is not. Then I went through some mathematical ways of looking at it, why it is not efficient. The guy was losing interest clearly, right? Because that guy had like 25 years of experience. He's like, this kid is too theoretical. He will never make it into practical life. That was written on his face.
That's what you picked up.
That's what I picked up from his face, right? And then I changed the course a little bit, and I said, like, let me put it in very simplistic terms here. If the stock markets were efficient, neither you or me are required, right? Your job is dependent on inefficiencies in the system, and you are trying to hire more of your kind, right? So as to make money out of it. So that's why both of us are here, and it's very simple, right?
This is such a moment, right?
Yeah, it was at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So, and the guy was like sitting there, and we are both staring at each other for 30 seconds. He's like, okay, we are done. I was like, either it's in or out, right? From that moment. And 2 hours later, the results are very quick on the placement days. 2 hours later,
You get to know that.
I get to know that I'm flying to Dubai in few weeks. So
He said that that was a very simple statement. It looks very simple to, once you say it, it looks very simple. But behind that one sentence is years of preparation that started with counting coins, right? And what I want to touch upon is the fact that that one sentence which culminated into you getting that job in the in UAE and then a progress in your career, it is years of effort. It is years of there were a lot of failures along the way. There were you pushed back, you raced against it. You found your passion in places by just participating in things that you didn't know of, right? And I think this muscle gets built on early on, right? So what I want to conclude this interview with that, don't listen to people who say that you have to study till 10th standard then have fun. Don't listen to people who say do 12th standard then go to college, have fun. Your preparation for anything that you do starts right in your childhood at whatever age you are. Even for me, for example, if I want to grow in my career, I am inspired to say that okay, wherever I am, I can't do anything about what has happened back in the day, but how do I look forward, right? And how do I build my muscle in the same way that a child like you, how you approached life.